Am I really that much to handle? Breaking these niggas down like a gamble. You don't really to know you.
What's up, beauties, and welcome back to Beauty and Cherie. Hey, y'all. Hey. So today we're gonna be talking about how you were born wealthy, but programmed to resist it. So, ever since we were young, let's go back a little bit so y'all can. Ever since we were younger, we were programmed. We were sent to elementary school. We were programmed to pretty much do what Simon says, right? We were programmed to do what society says. We were programmed to think not for ourselves, but how society teaches us to think. So, it actually took away from us thinking for ourselves. It took away from our creativity. It took away from our imagination. Imagination plays a huge role into manifestation. It also plays a huge role into, you just becoming like ultimately like the creator of your reality, right? Because if you know the power that you have, if you know the influence you have, that you're the author of your own reality, then you would know how much control or how much say you have over your own reality versus being so quick to listen to your fears. Fears is false evidence appearing real, okay? So a lot of times, it's easier for us to fall into our fears over, believing in sustaining our faith because you didn't grow up in an environment where you were supported or you didn't receive like just the resources and the tools to just basically get you to where you're supposed to be as an adult. Then you are stuck in a scarcity cycle because you don't really know, you're lacking the knowledge to grow, to become more. So instead of believing that you can do and become more, like, you got to think about our imaginations as kids. Like when you were a child, I'm pretty sure you had a big wild imagination, right? You probably thought anything was possible, right? Because at that point in your life, you were your most authentic version of yourself. As a child, you were your most authentic version of yourself because your faith was bigger. You hadn't gotten fully into society yet to the point where people were able to like dim your light and put such an imprint on you. As you get older, you hear from society or family members or friends things that you can't do or things that's possible or people deem impossible. So you start to limit your belief system based off of what people say, and basically any circumstances that you endure in your life throughout your childhood or adulthood, anything can change. Like, let's say you even had a pretty good childhood, but as an adult, you start experiencing disbelief in yourself somehow, some way, whether that's through just listening to other people and allowing other people's voice to overpower your own. So a lot of times we think, when we're thinking something in our mind, that every thought is our own thought, but a lot of times it's not true. And that's why being in touch with yourself is so important, because when you go alone, when you isolate yourself, you can actually differentiate the voices in your mind, which one is yours versus which ones are not yours. So obviously you want the best for yourself, obviously you want to do great. So all the voices that are like speaking against the positive voice in your mind, it's not your voice. It's either something you heard or something you told by somebody that you deem important. I remember even Biggie, in his movie, he mentioned that his teacher told him that he couldn't be, or he wasn't going to be anything. And I know people have faced many things like this in their personal life, like somebody like a teacher or a person that they deem important or of authority in their life telling them that they can't do something or something is impossible. Even though sometimes people can end up overpowering that voice in their mind, a lot of times people don't even try. They will fall into defeat. They will fall into listening to all the negative voices in their mind, because sometimes it can just be overwhelming, and sometimes people just can't find the strength within themselves to listen to their voice, the positive voices, the things that are trying to keep them going, their higher self basically. How to tap back into that is just throughout practice. Like, think about a trainer in the gym or a boxer. I'm trying to think of one specific boxer. I'm gonna just use Mike Tyson. Think about Mike Tyson, like in his younger days. Like, obviously he's not gonna, even though he's a great fighter, he had to train to get to that level, you know, you because it's a lot of strategy that goes into boxing. You're not just fighting. It's not like street fighting. You're using a lot of strategy, because if you become predictable, then the person on the other end can know how to defeat you. Life, you know, we were all raised upon this program that wants us all to do things exactly the way the system wants us to do things, so that we can become predictable, so that they can keep us feeding the system that's feeding whoever's getting all the wealth that's not us. In order to break out of the system, or aka the matrix, you have to do what's unpredictable, what's not societal norms. And a lot of times most people aren't broken out of this system. So when you start to break out of the system, a lot of people will look at you like you're crazy, or like, what are you doing, or who do you think you are? Sometimes you can get more negativity than positivity, especially when you're just starting out. We care so much, we care about what other people think, and that can really hinder us from, you know, becoming the most abundant version of ourselves, because we were taken in this system and we were stripped from ourselves, our true abundant selves. Again, think about the child like you were very abundant in your own right, not even just about money, but just the way you walk, talk, move, and believed. Mainly your imagination was very abundant. I remember my thoughts when I was younger, like me thinking money grew on trees and things like that, even though it does. Society teaches us that it doesn't, and that we are limited, and that things are impossible or hard. And so when you have adopted this belief system, then you begin to manifest your beliefs in reality, because whatever you believe comes to fruition. A lot of people don't believe in manifestation. They think it's against God, or, you know, religious people can really have their opinions when it comes to manifestation. God is all things. So I'm not a Christian, but I definitely believe in God, and we were taught a specific type of God for a reason. Even that in itself was strategic, because they want us to, it all has to do with like separation, power, hierarchy, patriarchy. Like, it gets really deep. And I don't know if you guys been seeing a recent post of these pastors going around but asking for these large sums of money from the people in their church. I feel like that itself is very demonic, because why are you asking for a large amount of money from people in this economy? That is insane to me. A lot of people are still going to these churches, listening to these pastors. A lot of these pastors are false prophets, and you know, you really have to have a relationship with yourself in order to have a relationship with God. A lot of these people are just only looking externally, and they have no idea who they are internally at all. So they have to constantly seek external. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of scary to watch, because it's very cult-like. Christianity to me is very cult-like. It's teaching you to believe in something outside of yourself, and then you end up bowing down to these pastors and these churches when God is not outside of you, God is inside of you. And then even in the Bible, like, the whole thing about church is so contradicting, because even in the Bible, God says that you shouldn't put too much power on wealth, and not wealth, but you shouldn't put too much power on material things and material gains and jewelry and all these things. But yet you see the pastors in the churches having their freaking Bentleys on stage and doing all this crazy stuff. So do you think God supports that? I'm pretty sure he doesn't, but you know, we all have the ability to believe in whatever we want to believe. So if that's how some people choose to get down with it, that's them. That's why I personally decided to sway from Christianity, because I felt like it was very judgmental, very like, you know, you keep your shame with you, and God doesn't want us to have shame. And I feel like Christians shame people. They try to make people feel bad and small and put people in boxes. And spirituality is very open and accepting and loving. It feels more godly, and they think we worship rocks and all these things, and crystals, which crystals and all these things are something that God put here as tool. Just like you use a pen to write, you can use a crystal to manifest or pray. It doesn't mean, oh, all my beliefs and faith is in this crystal rock here. That doesn't, it's again, ignorance is not bliss. So a lot of people will think they know more than they do because they just listen to what everybody else saying. I feel like that also has a lot to do with the topic though. We were born abundant, and again, religion is one of those things that causes us to go against ourselves. We have to understand that the less we resist our authentic selves, the wealthier we can be. A lot of people want wealth so much and they want success so bad before they even know who they are that they'll end up trying to just follow what they see other people do who are successful. And you know, even though it's possible that you can obtain success, you won't keep it long term. Like, it's going to be a very short-lived success. And I guess any success is better than no success to some people, but we've seen it done time and time again. You can get success too fast and it can ruin you because you have a bunch of snakes around you, people you cannot trust. You can get success fast and you can lose it just as fast because you weren't ready to sustain the success. You need a solid foundation in order to be able to hold up the things that you create. You can't just go hurry up. And think about when we were little and we heard the story about the wolf who blew the pig's house down. Each house was built differently. You had a house that was built out of sticks. You had a house that was built out of, I forgot what the other house was built out of, but it was something fragile. And then it was a house that was built out of bricks. So the wolf was able to blow all the other houses down that did not have a solid foundation. Obviously, he couldn't do anything with the house that was made of bricks because it was a solid foundation. So, you know, the same thing goes in life. When we try to hurry up and skip all these steps and want to hurry up and be successful in our own timing, which success doesn't just equal wealth. You can put your own meaning behind what you want success to be for yourself, but the main thing is, like, for those that's striving for wealth and, you know, just wants to overall just break themselves out of the cycle of poverty, which is definitely understanding. We all deserve to experience an abundant life without constantly having to give up our time for money. However, you have to be careful in the ways that you go about this because the devil is always looking for like different souls that are like desperate enough to, you know, go against their morals. And so, you know, if you do make it to these, you know, places, these high up places, you got to understand that there's demons there. So they're looking for you to go ahead and be ready to sell your soul and sign a contract and do all these things. But it's also consequences to that. You have to sacrifice people, things, whatever, in order to maintain this lifestyle. Who wants to go from a wealthy life back to poverty? Nobody. So, you know, a lot of people are willing to give up their morals, everything that they are to themselves, their soul. That's what your soul, giving up your soul, is. Everything that you believe yourself to be on a moral level, like your values, things you wouldn't do, things you normally wouldn't do unless it was like a large amount of money being offered to you, you're selling your soul. And so a lot of people are willing to do that because they're so scarce in their mind, they're so poor in their mind. A lot of people that are at the top of the charts right now are still very poor in their mind because it's things that they're willing to do, ways they're willing to degrade themselves in order to keep that status and keep that money flowing. Overall, y'all have to be careful, but everybody don't have the same values and moral system code. There's some people willing to do what they got to do to get it all, but what's the point in gaining a world to lose yourself? Because you see rich people every day that still kill themselves or can be killed by somebody in their circle. We got to be cautious when we're out here trying to, you know, get the things that we want and obtain the success. And also understanding that we are naturally abundant, we are naturally rich, as long as we're authentic to ourselves and we are aligned. Because getting money doesn't have to be hard. If you're in alignment, if you're just being your authentic self, you can make money. You don't have to work hard. You just have to work smart. You just have to know what routes to take. You just have to be consistent. And so, you know, I just feel like the more you resist and try to be in control and try to like find shortcuts, just do all these things to go outside of yourself instead of just understanding that I can just be me. I can just be authentic to who I am. Money can just come to me that way. I don't have to go out there and go against myself and just to gain the world. It's really a test of character. It's something that you really have to be prepared for. Everybody's not ready for the things they think they are. A lot of people think they're ready to be rich because they're only thinking small, because they're not there yet. They don't know all it takes. It's a lot of responsibility. The more money you make, people that's making the money, that's at the top of the food chain, tell us all the time. That's why you gotta study. You gotta listen to the right people, because they're telling you these things, and it's not for no reason. Some people are so greedy and impatient that they need to hurry up and get there. They run into a lot of dead ends, and things don't work out, or things don't last long, or they lose themselves in the midst of it all because they're trying to get it like everybody else, trying to get it fast, you know. So I didn't really write any points down today. I just kind of wanted to flow from spirit, and I hope this video pretty much makes sense. We're born abundant. It's a mindset. It's a constant practice. It's your inner dialogue. It's things that you're telling yourself. If you're allowing constantly, if you know that you're striving for something specific in life and your reality seems completely opposite of that, you have to ignore it, aka be delusional. Not delusional in the sense of, oh, I'm just delusional. Delusional in the sense of, be so insanely knowing, be so great in your faith that it doesn't matter what your outer reality looks like in this instant, because you know it's going to change, because you already know it's done, because you already have the faith that what you put out there is on its way to you. Just like you put some cookies in the oven, you already know the cookies finna be done. If you check in the cookies every 2 seconds to see if the cookies done, you're delaying the process of the cookies being done. Versus if you just go sit down somewhere, and we're so afraid to rest in this society because we're so programmed that rest is bad. Why do you think that they programmed us that rest is bad? Because rest is the way to receive. You don't receive by going to get it. You stay broke like that. The wealthy rest. The wealthy people are resting most of the time. Yes, they're consistent in the things that they do, but they're not out here working hard. They're out here working smart and consistently. Understand that what you want is already yours. There's no need to want it. You just gotta be patient and wait for your reality to align with what you already know intuitively. So that's my message for today, y'all. Stay tuned for the next video, beauties. Peace.